do that. So we have somebody here who, Denise Bennett, who is going to share with you her experiences in submitting applications for Project MEND.
So how many people in this room have already applied for impact in the past and didn't get funded? How many people have applied more than 2 times? 3? 4? We did 5. So I just want to encourage you. That's great news, right? So first of all, let me introduce my grant writer and co-conspirator, Stephanie Kotick. She joined Project MEND with our team last April. I mean, you were a volunteer and then you were hired. I saw her writing skills and I was like, oh yeah, this is important. This is an important hire decision. So we applied 5 times. 5 times is as far back as I'm going into the database in my office. I did yesterday find a folder that indicates that there may have been applications as far back as 2010. The application doesn't look anything like it does now, but this was a long project. This was a pie in the sky. Is this ever going to be possible? What are we doing wrong? How are we going to get this formula right? Because I'm an experienced grant writer and Stephanie is a great grant writer. So we were just determined that this was going to be our year. So I just want to talk about a few things that we found were important in moving us from what would have been year number 5 with no funding to being one of the recipients. I wanted to let Stephanie start out just talking about the few little pointers she has about the grant application and the conversations that we had. Also, I know not everyone has this resource available, but if there can be 2 people to talk this over and you have somebody you can collaborate with, that's the way to go, because things that you think are extraordinarily clear and you completely get it and you know exactly what you do, the other person, especially when Stephanie came in, it was an opportunity for me to think outside of having been in an organization for 4 years. So Stephanie was bringing a fresh perspective and asking questions to me, well, why do we do that? Or why have we done that? And the experience that I offered was to say, this is better language, or this is a better thought process. I don't think that this would necessarily be understood. We've had this question asked in the past, so we're not being clear. So first I just wanted Stephanie just to briefly be able to tell you about what she did before we ever sat down to write the first grant in that process.
So like Denise said, I started in May. And when I first started, sorry, my voice is hoarse. She gave me last year's grant application and she said, read this, because I think it's the best one we've ever submitted, and I want to know from somebody who has no idea what Impact San Antonio is, because I was new to the area and I was new to the organization. Tell me, what do you think of this? And she gave me a brief overview of Impact and what Impact San Antonio likes to fund, and asked me to review the grant. So I took it home and I reread it a couple times, and I came back and I said, well, this is what I think. And based on those critiques that I had, we came up with an entirely different plan than we had ever done before. So for those who aren't familiar with what we were funded with this year, we received $100,000 to buy 2 trucks and an industrial-sized washing machine for medical equipment. And that was it. 3 very simple things. And we wanted it to be simple and clear and concise so that there was no room for confusion, no room for unclarity, easy to understand. So that was the first thing I did before we even looked at the grant application, was I reviewed what we had submitted in previous years. I asked questions about where we got each year in the step, and each year we found that we got farther, and we wanted to figure out how we could get to that last step this year.
And so comes the site visit. Because honestly and truly, I'm going to tell you from our experience, that is the key, the site visit. Write a great grant application. Make sure that you do all those things I know you're going to do to check your grammar and all of that stuff, but it does make a difference. and make sure that your language is concise, all those things that you all do great, but the real magic happens at the site visit. So the previous year, the first year I was at Project MEND, the site visit happened. Somebody had written the grant before my arrival, and the site visit occurred on my second day. I had no idea what was going on. I had no clue. Kathy, our CEO, just introduced me to the impact people, and she went to I think she just talked about it, and the impression that I got was that the site visit was a question and answer time. So unfortunately, the following year, I followed that pattern, and we rewrote a great grant, I think. We made it all the way through all of the financial review, the blah, 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 blah. Get to the site visit, and I had my team with me, and we're all sitting there like, did you have any questions? And they asked questions, great questions. We answered them, they left, and we thought, well, that went pretty well. We didn't get funded. The next year, we wrote a great grant, and I thought, there's something more to this whole site visit. And I think at this point, you guys didn't have any make a presentation or do a presentation. You didn't have any specifics about it. It was just site visit. So that following year, I invited somebody whose opinion outside of our organization that I really respected, and I asked them to sit in on the site visit. I went into the site visit thinking, we're not going to make it to the end, but I am going to learn what the problem is today so that next year, this doesn't happen again. So I highly encourage you to bring a board member or a trusted person outside of your organization to your site visit so that they can be getting feedback, because when it's happening, you're all over the place trying to make sure you answer the questions correctly. So this year, here's the key. Do your site visit as if it is award night. This is your opportunity to sell your program to the impact people that are there that day. Do a PowerPoint, do some sort of a presentation, give them a handout if you can, but you have to show and prove and demonstrate at that site visit that if you are one of the 10 finalists, you're gonna knock it out of the ballpark the night of the event, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who can sell their program to a room full of people on the night of the awards. And that is precisely what we did at that year's site visit. And we also made sure that we had a board member present. That's a very important piece, in my opinion. Somebody else who's there and able to answer questions and just be a supportive board member in the process. And then at the Impact Award. And I am thankful that when we went to Kathy and said, Kathy, you are not the best person to do this, that she said, okay, because some CEOs wouldn't have done that. And we really felt like we had put into place a lot of thought and a lot of emotion, and that we were the best ones to tell the story. The other thing I encourage you all to do is we actually asked our board members, volunteer, I think there were about 5 or 6 of them, who came after work one night at one of our board members' law firms, and we presented our presentation to them in its entirety in advance of the award night. And we were surprised at the things that we thought at that point were completely clear that we're not, from a board member who knows our organization and knows what we do and knows what our ask is going to be. So we rehearsed it, we presented it, they made comments, and they provided us with great feedback, especially since you had a couple of attorneys in the room, and this is how they prepare for court. So they provided us with great feedback, and then instantly we went back up and presented again with the changes they recommended, and it was a totally different presentation. So highly recommend, if you have that capability, that will get you far. You will be surprised at what's not clear that you think is clear. And then finally, I just want to say that it's all in the attention to the details, and I really, truly believe that the night of the event, we got to pick a song. What was it, 30 seconds, 15 seconds? It was something so tiny that you really had to make sure you were picking a song that was going to say something about what you did, and get the point across in the time it took to walk from there up to here. So don't just pick some background music. I'm saying pick a song. Pick something that's going to make you dance your butt off up to the stage, because that's what we did. I turned to Stephanie that night and said, we are dancing up to that stage. She goes, I can't do that. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. The booty's moving, the legs are moving, the arms are moving. We're going for it 100%. We're going for it 100%, or we're going home. And we both danced up to the stage because the music was perfect. Everybody in the room had heard that piece of music before. And it's just a little tiny detail, but I think it made all the difference in the world. And if it didn't make a difference for the people sitting in the room, I most assuredly tell you that it made a difference for Steffi and I when we were dancing up to the stage, because when we got up there, we were on present mode. So that's just the simple little things can make a huge difference. I'm happy, Stephanie and I are happy to meet with any of you. If you have any questions, we'll take a look at your proposal. We'll do whatever we can to help you to get, especially those of you that are on time number 4. We think we've got the formula for time number 5.
Thank you, Denise and Stephanie. That was a great presentation. High five multiple times. We couldn't have asked her if we had written a script and said, can you please say these things? We couldn't have done as good a job as she just did.